I quit 10 years of cannabis use, overcame my spirit of people pleasing, and built discipline, all by learning how to critically think. In this video, I will walk you through the 5 pillars of critical thinking I use to overcome my most difficult and recurring problems, and how you can do the same for yourself. I'm Dr. Princess PharmD, new videos every Thursday. Critical thinking and problem solving is the ability to clearly understand a problem, evaluate it logically, and choose a solution based on facts, not assumptions, emotions, or biases. This framework can be utilized to solve any problem, from weight loss issues, chronic procrastination, or even lack of discipline. We begin with pillar number 1, which is to identify, define, and name the problem. In this stage, it is crucial you explicitly state what the problem is. You must say exactly what is wrong. This is not a time to be vague or arbitrary, because we need to identify what the root cause is. To do this, you must separate facts from fiction. There's a clear difference between symptoms versus the source of your root cause. An overwhelming symptom could be, I am fat, therefore I am depressed. Being depressed because you're overweight isn't necessarily the root cause of your issue. It is merely a symptom. A true root cause of your problem could be overeating, skipping the gym routine, or in most cases, not addressing an underlying stressor in your life. It is crucial you tend to the root cause if any of this is going to work. Now you might ask, Dr. Princess, how can I identify the appropriate root cause of my problem? I thought you never asked. We're utilizing the 3 W's. 1, ask what is happening right now. I am overweight, thus I am depressed. Number 2, what is the scope of its effect in my life? Well, my clothes don't fit, I feel insecure, and I don't want to go anywhere. And finally, we're going to utilize the why technique, where you ask why repeatedly until you get to the root cause. Oftentimes, by question number 5, you should be there. Here's what an illustration looks like. Why am I overweight? Because my eating is off and I've skipped the gym one too many times. Why have I skipped the gyms? Because I feel emotionally drained and not motivated. Why do I feel emotionally drained? Chronic stress. Why do I feel chronically stressed? Well, my boss is an and my partner is not really helping much at home. Because of that, I feel stressed, I skip the gym, I eat, and voila, here we are. By following this series of whys, we've been able to identify that the root cause of the weight issue is poor stress management. Therefore, now that we've identified the root cause, we can move into finding a solution through the analysis of data, which brings us to pillar number 2 of critical thinking: analysis and interpretation of data. In this stage, our goal is to look at the trends, the patterns, and the recurring themes of your life. For instance, I consumed cannabis for a decade for social additives, something my partner and I did for fun and when we went to parties. However, at year 5 came the diminishing return. Consumption with it was now accompanied with anxiety and lack of discipline. Here is how analysis helped me identify consumption of cannabis as the root cause, and how interpreting the data helped me not only stop the behavior but solve a myriad of other problems in my life. Anxiety. I looked at when I consumed cannabis. My anxiety raised, my confidence dwindled, and I became socially awkward, and that was already too much for an introverted INFJ. Through introspection, I was able to pinpoint cannabis as a source of my social awkwardness. In terms of discipline, I asked, why is it that when I started something, I never finished it? I would get pumped about a new idea, and by week 2, I am off the wagon. Through retrospective self-analysis, I was able to trace that when I consumed cannabis, it hijacked my mental brain and depressed the release of dopamine, which caused me to feel mentally fatigued and tasks remained incomplete. I continued in this same cycle half of my 20s, where I would get excited about something, I'll procrastinate, I'll get on it, and then I'll fall off the bandwagon. The only thing of value that I actually completed was my doctorate at the age of 22. And it was only because my parents are Nigerian, and they would have killed me if I didn't finish. I hope through this exercise, you can now look back and identify and analyze the root cause of your issues. It is important to note when performing analysis that you question all your findings, because as humans, we are filled with biases and blind spots. So you have to always ask yourself, is the information I'm looking at objectively being reviewed? Pillar number 3 is the development of a viable solution. In this stage, our goal is to look at a myriad of solutions and come with one viable solution. Notice that I emphasize on one viable solution because 1, it prevents you from getting overwhelmed and dropping off. 2, if you applied multiple solutions of one problem, it'll be difficult to identify what's working and what's not working. You might ask, how do I identify the right solution for my problem? The most effective solution will target the root cause and directly address your deepest fears. Let's be honest, at the base of all recurring problems are mostly our deepest fears. Let's take chronic procrastination, for instance, of a goal that you want to chase. Many would say, oh, it's because I'm busy. The children are my focus. We're going to do that when they're all grown up. That's a lie. That's not only a missing of root cause, but flat out avoidance. If we really are being honest in analyzing the reason why you've procrastinated going to the gym or starting that business you want, the basis of it is fear of failure, fear of what people think, of even winning. That's a thing. My therapist gave me the best solution for any time you feel anxious or fearful of something. Do the exact opposite. I remember years ago when I was still working on my people-pleasing skills and speaking my mind and saying what I feel like. My therapist would say, at that moment where the little voice would tell me, oh, don't say anything, my therapist would say, speak up immediately. The Bible says in James 5:16, confess your transgressions to your brethren so that you might be healed. When you divulge that thing that is eating you up, you feel free and the burden is released. It is important to note when you're selecting a solution that you make sure it addresses the root cause of your issues and most especially the biggest fear in your life. Therefore, if your issue of procrastination about going to the gym is something you've been struggling with, just do it. Pillar number 4 is implementation. Once a course of action has been reached, one solution, it is time to implement. My advice is to start small and ratchet things up. Because with any new habit, you need time to build tolerance in order to enhance your stickability rate. Yes, I know that's a word. When I wanted to lose 15 pounds after the holiday, I didn't say, I'm going to make it to the gym 5 days a week. No, I said, this week, I'm going to try to get to the gym as much as I can. Next week, it's every other day. And through consistency and building tolerance over time, I was able to develop a 5-day-a-week gym regimen for the last several years. And yes, there are months where I fall off the bandwagon, but I always get back on and stay on the course. And that's the key here. Progress, not perfection. While going through the phase of implementation, having a mastermind group is key for accountability and support. Their goal here is to be your cheerleader, to be your support system, especially for those times when you fall, which is inevitable. This could be a therapist, a coach, an accountability buddy. I have both. I have a therapist for all the cerebral stuff. An accountability coach is essentially my taskmaster. If you can't afford any, get an accountability buddy. I'm sure there's a friend of yours who's looking for the same thing you want to achieve. You both should get together, be an accountability for one another. Consistency is also key because it takes an average of 90 days to develop a new habit to generate reliable feedback. On average, it takes about 15 years and $3 billion to generate reliable data to bring drugs to market. I know some trials that I'm working on that have been on for over 20 years. Now, I'm asking you to only do 90 days. That should be very, very much easy and doable for you. Finally, we arrive at the last step of critical thinking and problem solving, and that is evaluating your findings and reviewing your results. No test is ran without evaluation. Therefore, you must treat your personal growth as a clinical trial. At the end of your 90-day mark of implementation, I need you to ask yourself these 3 questions. 1, am I comparing myself to the old me? Let's say your problem is chronic debt that is tied to irrational spending. Prior to the implementation of your solution, opening of your bank app could be something that is mixed with an emotional stress. What you need to compare is post 90 days of implementation of a solution. Is my emotional stress down now that I have a payment plan, a repayment plan in check? Because that change of emotion, that improvement in emotion, and having the new habit of a repayment plan in check is what you should be looking at. That's the real right comparison. Number 2 is, what did I learn about my limitations and blind spots? When I wanted to be more assertive and less of a people's pleaser, I recognized that I find it much more difficult to assert myself with women than with men. And this is tied to my family dynamic of having a narcissistic mother. Through the help of my therapist, we're able to develop a strategy to help me overcome this. Am I perfect? No, perfection is not the key. Progress is what we're looking for. And that's the beauty about implementation of critical thinking, because not only does it solve problems for you, you're able to see blind spots about your personality that you may have never even discovered in the past. The final question is, am I focused on the progress or the prize? It's easy to say it's been 90 days, I lost 15 pounds, my goal is 80 pounds. You know what, let's just give up. This system does not work. That's rubbish. And honestly, that is being very short-sighted. You may have not lost all 80 pounds and fit in your perfect size 2 jeans. But the question is, are you getting closer to your goal? Progress is the real indicator of success, not the final prize. We just built the 5-pillar strategy to find the real root cause of your problem. You now have the system to solve the deepest, most recurring problems in your life. But that discipline can easily be nuked by one thing: doom scrolling. The average American loses about 2.5 months yearly to doom scrolling. Click right here and watch Stop Doom Scrolling: 6 Rules to Break the Addiction, and I'll see you there.